I shocked myself a little bit, but we have a technician. So, I have been coming and being with you for several weeks now, on and off. I'm going to tell Shelley to not go away, because the last time she went away and I was here, it was the Uvalde shooting, and then today, of course, the Supreme Court decision. I'm hoping that her leaving town doesn't coincide with negative things happening, but I'm noticing that for the first time that we're together, that I've been with you, we have a minion in person, even more than a minion. So that is really wonderful. Our spirits in person are growing. I'm very loud. Yeah, right, something bad happened. All right, so, but you know what? It's Shabbat, and on Shabbat, our job is to act as if, right? On Shabbat, we act as if the work is done, as if we've left the problems behind. When Shabbat is over, we pick right back up and we continue to, fold the laundry and wash the dishes and take down the patriarchy. But for now, we take a little breath and a little break. I'm going to start with a beautiful poem that Shelley left, this wonderful book by friend and poet Alden Solovey, who lives in Jerusalem. You can't hear me very well? Mm-hmm. Hold on. Let's try again. Let's see. I'm going to put it on this side, and we'll see. All right, let's see how that works. So, take a deep breath, and we'll start this way. Ancient One, open my heart to receive the blessings around me, kindness and wisdom, friendship and understanding, tenderness and compassion, moments of holiness, messages from heaven. Source and shelter, open my heart to bless others with the fullness of my being, with joy and thanksgiving, from a hope for healing and a pulse of love, to fill the world with benedictions. Rock and Redeemer, open my heart to welcome the blessings around me, a fountain of grace to fill my soul with gratitude and courage, with wonder and peace. We are going to continue on page 121 with a reading, and then we'll go back to page 120 for lighting of the candles. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offering of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Join with me. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We will continue on page 120. We're going to continue on page 122 with Kiddush. Va'erev va'avoker yom hashishi, va'yechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam, va'yechol Elohim b'yom hashvi, melachto asher asa, va'yishbot b'yom hashvi, mikol melachto asher asa. Vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi, vayekadesh oto, ki vo shavat mikol melachto, asher bara Elohim la'asot. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho b'yahavu v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim. Be seated. We will continue on page 138 and 139, welcoming Shabbat with Lecha Dodi. We will sing, let's sing verses 1, 2, and 9. We'll start this way. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmi'anu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila, lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. I changed my mind, let's do 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, mirosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh machshavat chila, lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Number 8, yamin u'smol tifrotzi, bet Adonai taritzi, al yarish ben partzi, v'nismecha v'nagila, lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat Nekabela. We rise and turn to the back to welcome the Sabbath bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam v'simcha uvtzola tochem unei am segula. Boi chala lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat Nekabela, Lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat Nekabela. You can be seated. I think we need one more song to put us in the Shabbat spirit. I feel like I'm not settled into the Shabbat spirit yet, and I realize, standing here, that we have a lot of members of our choir in this room. So we can just sing a little bit more. Page 142, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzechem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We continue on page 144 with the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgada v'yitgada Shemei Rabbah, B'alma divrach urte v'yamlich malchute, B'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, Bagala, uv'izman kariv, v'maru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mivorach, Li'alam lo me'omaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, Shemei D'Kudusha, Brichu, Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damihiram b'alma v'yimaru. Amen. We rise for the Baruch Hu, page 146. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai. Amevo And be seated. Page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. We continue on page 150. We'll sing together. Ahavat olam beYisrael amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shofenu uvkumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei toratecha u'mitzvatecha le'olam va'ed Em chayeinu v'yorech yameinu uvahem negeh yomam v'layla v'ahavtacha al tasir mimen v'yolamim Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. You'll excuse me, my voice is a little bit shaky. I spent my entire week teaching at Ramah Day Camp in Wheeling. And it was a lot of fun, but it was really hot, and I taught 250 kids every day, from pre-K to 6th grade. So my voice is, at the end of the week, not as strong as it was at the beginning of the week. And I also need to hydrate a lot. But they were good kids. They were good kids. We are going to continue on page 152 with the Shema, if you'll all please rise. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivon Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. You can be seated. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'otecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha Hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Page 157 at the top, if you'll read with me. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We continue on page 158. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norah tehilot osef ela, norah tehilot osef ela. Ya'iltecha ra'u v'anecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe Miriam, Ze'elianu v'amru, Ze'elianu v'amru, Adonai imloch le'olam v'ed, Adonai imloch le'olam v'ed. Speaking of marching together, I know that there's a march downtown even as we speak. There'll be another one on Sunday morning. I don't have the details. We are going to continue with Vishamru on page 162. Sometimes we need a lot of reminders about Shabbat. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam b'rit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam b'rit olam. Beni uven b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam b'rit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam b'rit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat v'inafash, shavat v'inafash, Shabbat vayinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. We are going to continue with our Amidah, or Tefillah, on page 164. We will rise and sing together until page 170, and then have our own silent prayers. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor HaNorah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Hamot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei Bneihem, Melech Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol atah Rab Le'Hoshia, Morid atah, Mechalkel Chai Chesed, Mechayei HaKol Brachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim, V'Rofeh Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Keim Shenei Afar, Michamocha Ma'agirut, U'Mido Melech, Melech Meimit U'Mechayeh, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman atah l'chayot ha'kol, Baruch atah Adonai, B'chayei ha'kol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom yalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh. I invite you to continue to pray if you're still praying. Together we'll sing Shalom Rav on page 178. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. May we all be granted ever-flowing peace. We're going to continue now with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of the Torah. We are on page 362. I'm going to put my mask back on because I'll be coming through the congregation. I know you'll sing loudly to make up for that, and hopefully you'll all be able to hear me. Please rise. Page 362. Ein kamocha ba'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim etiva birtzoncha et Zion. Tivnei komot Yerushalayim. Tivnei komot Yerushalayim. Ki becha levad batachnu, melech el-ram v'nisa Adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion davar Adonai Yerushalayim. Hold on. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Li'amo Yisrael B'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Gadol Adonai Iti Unaramim Shemo Yachtam Lecha Adonai Gedula V'Hagevura V'Hatifem V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Kicho B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Kicho B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Adonai HaMamlacha Na'aseh L'chol Erosh Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed. Right. Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed. El HaTorah Avodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim Al HaTorah Ve'al HaAvodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim. Okay, you can be seated. Ooh. So, this week's Torah portion is a good one. I mean, they're all good ones, but some are, some would make better action movies than the other ones. Leviticus has a lot of good information in it, but it doesn't have a lot of plot. So so today's portion is Shalach Lecha. We are going to read on page, we're going to be on page 860. We're actually going to start kind of in the middle of the page with verse 4. So this is what's happening at the moment. What's happening is that, it's time to go into the land of Israel. And the people don't want to go because they're nervous. So they send spies. They're not really spies, they're more like, scouts. They send scouts to go look at the land of Israel, and I won't read this part of the portion tonight, but they send scouts to the land of Israel, 12 scouts, one for every tribe, and 10 of the tribes come back with, oh, no, we cannot move there, no way. It's interesting because one of the reasons that they say they can't move there is giants, right? Why do they say there are giants? I don't know if you've seen one of the emblems of the state of Israel, but one of the emblems of the state of Israel is two men carrying a big cluster of grapes between their shoulders, right? And so one of the things that they say on this journey to go look at the land is that the grapes are so big that that more than one person has to carry a cluster of grapes. And they talk about just how scary it is that they'll crush us, right? Only two people say that it's okay. One of those is Joshua, right, who not only is allowed into the land, but leads after Moses dies. And it says in this portion, of course, it's a retelling of a bit earlier, but it says, look at, because you people didn't believe, this is why you're wandering in the desert. Right? You were gone for 40 days looking, you're going to do it for 40 years, and not one of you will see it. Your children are a different story. Your children can go in, but you are of an unbelieving generation. And it's interesting that disbelief comes with punishment so much, because in Judaism, really, that's not how we feel anymore, right? I remember one time many, many years ago, I gave a sermon on doubt. And I said I wondered if I asked everyone in the congregation, if everyone, when I gave the sermon on Rosh Hashanah at another congregation, and there were about, 1,200 people there. And I said, I wonder if only those people who believed faultlessly would stay, what would happen? And that, maybe we'd be left with 100 people and maybe 50 of them were telling the truth, right? And so it's interesting that this talks about, belief in God's way, because we don't ask that, right? We don't ask anyone, right? When someone becomes bar or bat mitzvah and takes on the role of an adult in the Jewish community, we don't say, do you believe? We say, hey, can you read Torah for us? Right? Can you take an active part in the community if someone converts to Judaism? Right? There are other faiths. When you convert to those faiths, you're asked to talk about your belief. Judaism doesn't ask, right? Says, will you throw your lot in with the Jewish people for good or for bad? Sure, right? Okay, so we're going to read a bit. I got it. I'm going to need help dressing it, but undressing it I got. It's not the kind of thing you want to say from the bima, really. All right, it looks like its belt could be on a little bit tighter, but that's okay. Kerplunk. Thank you so much. I had a conversation with my kids that I was teaching today about stealing, and they asked if it was okay to steal a yad. Well, an interesting conversation was we were talking about stealing and respect for things, and one of the rules about stealing is that if you ask to borrow if you take something without someone's permission, it's stealing, with the exception of things that you might use in prayer. So if I leave my talit here for a month and I'm not here in an intervening week, and one of you forgets your talit, you can wear that without asking, and it's not considered wrong, because you would think that, of course, I would want you to do something that was a mitzvah, and I wouldn't mind. But you can't take one of these. All right. Oh, we are not in the right place. All right, friends, it's going to take me a minute to get to the right place. I just have to see in exactly what wrong place we are for reference. I think we might only be one Torah portion away, but I want to check myself. Oh, yeah, only one Torah portion away. All right. Okay, so you should know that in this portion of the Torah, almost every single block of text starts with the same words. It almost all starts with Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God spoke to Moses saying. So I can't look for the part that says, and then he took the wand. Hold on. We're going to go to where my page is marked and give myself some more hints. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Okay, I did just come across the part of the Torah while we're looking. We didn't sing it tonight, but Vayhi binso Aharon Vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai V'yafutzu oivecha V'yanusu misanecha mipanecha. It's right in front of me. All right, in a minute, we're just going to read it from the book. And I will roll this again tomorrow. Yeah. Try for one more minute. Okay, tell you what, we're going to keep the Torah out, and I'm going to read from this. So I wanted to read specifically one thing for a reason. If you want to join me in the blessing before the Torah, we'll do that. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. So we say, we take off our glasses and say, lost my place. Okay, so verse 4. Ve'ele shmotam lemata ve'ele shmotam. So, and these were their names. So he asks everyone from a different tribe. Let's start with verse 3. Vayishlach otam Moshe mi midbar Paran al pi Adonai kulam anashim roshe v'nei Yisrael hema. So Moses sent all of these people from the desert of Paran, according to the word of God, and he sent all of these people, the heads of the tribes of Israel, there. Ve'ele shmotam, and these were their names. Lamate Reuven, Shamua ben Zachor, from the tribe of Reuben. His name was, he was called Ben Zachor. Lamatesh Shimon, Shaphat ben Huri. His name was Shaphat ben Huri. Lamata Yehuda, Kalev ben Yifuna, so that's Caleb. Lamata Yisachar, Yigaal ben Yosef. Lamata Ephraim, Hoshea ben Nun, so that's Joshua. Lamata Benjamin, Palti ben Rafu. Lamata Zvulun, Gadiel ben Sodai. Lamata Yosef, Lamata Menashe, Gadi ben Susi. Lamata Dan, Amiel ben Gemali. Lamata Asher, Stur ben Gamliel. Lamata Naphtali, Nachbi ben Vafsi. Lamata Gad, Guel ben Maki. Eila Shemot Anashim Asher Shalach Moshe Latur et Haaretz V'yikra Moshe Loshia ben Nun Yoshua. So these are the names of the people that Moses sent to the land, and he called Hoshea ben Nun Yehoshua. So he changed it. So other people called him Hosea. Moses called him Yoshua. We are going to do that. All right, if you'll sing with me the blessings after. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chai olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. We're going to leave that there for now. We'll put it away in a moment, or I see I'm running long, so maybe we'll do it after Tefillah. So earlier in the week, I decided that I wanted to talk about the names that were in the Torah portion. I wanted to talk about the names because I think that often we only think about the names of a few people, right? We know Sarah and Rebecca and Rachel and Leah. We know Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We know a few more. Moses, we know Aaron, maybe Samuel, maybe Tamar, a few more, right? But can you imagine that at the time, these people's names were really important, right? We're like, yeah, we know Joshua, we know Caleb, but we don't know much about Caleb, right? Our religious school didn't teach us that much about Caleb. And here we have this whole list of names. And we talk about that the Torah doesn't tell us things we don't need to know, right? And we could have just said, yeah, you know what? 12 spies, 12 travelers went. There was one from each tribe. Who cares about their names, right? If we say, yeah, you know what, there was a big meeting of executives, and there was a guy there from Coke and a guy there from McDonald's, their names don't matter, but these names matter. And so I've been thinking a lot about why these names matter. Right? In earlier Torah portions, I spoke to you once this year about the census. The census I spoke to you about wasn't the census where we take a census by giving a half shekel, right? In that census, we take it by giving a half shekel to show that everyone is necessary, right? If you're a half shekel, what are you going to buy with a half shekel? Nothing. But if there's this one and this one, then we can do something. The Torah portions about the census are about community, right? There's a ton of Torah portions about community and a bunch about straying from the community. But this really talks about the individuals. And so I've been puzzling all week about what I thought I might say tonight. And so there are two things, right? One that I've been thinking about all week, and that's come up. Did you ever read a word in a book, and you're like, oh, I haven't read that, like that's new. And then you see it like 3 more times, right? And you're like, or you see an ad for something, and then you see it on a billboard in a bus, and you're like, wow, like that's the first time I saw it, right? And then it happens again and again. I want to talk about 2 things. First, I want to talk about the people who make up the Jewish community and the assumptions we make about the people who make up the Jewish community. And that for years and years, for my parents and my grandparents, right? People in the Jewish community were named Sam and Myron, right? And Chaim and Sadie and Doris and Sylvia. And we have a Jewish community where people at Emanuel congregation, right? And in the Jewish community and at large, we have people who are named Pedro, right? And names that have origins in Jamaica and India and in Africa. And I think it's important because a lot of times we say, oh, we welcome everyone. Everyone is exactly the same, right? Everyone's on the same footing here. But you know what? Everyone isn't exactly the same. And everyone doesn't want to be greeted the same way, and everyone doesn't have the same interests, and everyone doesn't have the same background, right? And we can't assume that everyone grew up eating matzo balls, right? I had a friend in rabbinic school who we all peppered our conversation with Yiddish. And she grew up in a classical German Reform family, right? Her name was Sigma, after her grandfather, Sigmund, right? She couldn't speak a word of Yiddish. She never heard it, right? And to so many of us, it was just like, well, that's what Jews do. And I think that it's so important to say over and over again that there isn't one thing that Jews do, right? That Jews do all sorts of different things, and it's not enough to say we're welcoming of all, oh, everyone can come. It's important for us to really walk the walk of this person has this interest or need, and this person has this interest or need, or background or tradition, and they all need to be celebrated. The other reason that I wanted to talk about names came to me, of course, this morning, because I think it's important for us today, as the Supreme Court decision came down, to say that this isn't an amorphous thing, right? This isn't an amorphous thing that probably all of us could name a human being who has had an abortion, right? A friend, a family member, a colleague. As I was coming over, I just started to read an article by a rabbi who, graduated 20 years after I did, right? Now, because I am who I am, I won't share names, but we all know names. And so I want to say that sometimes it's easy to take our challenges and push them a little bit far away. I'm in my warm house with my good food. Sometimes it's hard to see that there are people starving, right? I'm in my university with my books. Sometimes it's hard to see that there are children who don't have books, right? But I feel like this one hits us closer. And I feel like it hits us closer for 2 reasons. A, because we know names, but also because Judaism tells us over and over again, we're very law-bound, right? Judaism gives us 10 commandments, 613 laws. We have all sorts of things that we are told we need to do, right? Not believe, but do. And why can we not do any of them? What's a reason for saying, oh, I can't do that right now? I'm sorry, I can't celebrate Shabbat right now. I'm sorry, I can't keep kosher right now, right? The only reason that we're allowed to abandon commandments is to save a life, right? To save a life. And my feeling is that right now we're in a point in our American history where it's our duty to do something to save the lives of countless women by ensuring their health care. I know in Illinois, if you look at the map, we're surrounded by places where people can't have their rights. And so I think we have a special obligation. And I wonder in the next few years if Illinois will be flooded. And I hope that we're able to take that responsibility.
Actually, we've already gotten calls from doctors in other states that are very strict. And they're asking, can you take these people?
Sure, right. I wonder if in the next few years or in the next few months, if clinics will start opening up in like East St. Louis, right? Or at 95th Street, right on the border of Indiana. It's a lot. And I think that, the Jewish community has a special obligation given our demands, given our feelings about pikuach nefesh, saving a soul, saving a life. Okay. We're going to leave this right here. It's safe. We'll put it away after tefillah is over. We're going to open up our prayer books again to page 371 for a Mishaberach, a prayer for healing. I'm going to read the names on the list, and then we can add other names of people that we're thinking about. My fingernails are not cooperating right now. There we go. We're thinking about the following people and wishing them health of mind, body, and spirit. Aviva Eliza, Laura Kina Aronson, Joan Bronsfeld, David Burchett, Fega Sora Batchaya, Stephen Engelman, Elson Garb, Phyllis Goldblatt, Don Grandolfo, Leah Jones, Carl Colbin, Jeffrey Krause, Helena Krisick, Miriam Lyon, Gerald Marks, Eileen McNichols, Jimmy Miller, Sharon Montesi Garskoff, Irene Noperstak, Lois Pavilon, Gary Priest, Rich Reisman, Alan Sager, Casey Siengo, Christian Rouse Skinner, Rob Stein, Tali Stein, Cameron Michael Taft, Avram Ben Sivia, Yosef Raphael Ben Yehudit. Are there any names that you were thinking about right now that you'd like to call to mind? Are there any names from people who are joining us over Zoom? All right, we'll sing together on page 371 as we lift up all of the names that we've just recited. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We are going to continue with Aleinu on page 586. If you'll please rise. Aleinu l'shabach la'adon ha'kol, la'ateit giyut v'tze'er breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shehu noteh shamayim v'yosei haaretz, umoshav yikarov b'shamayim imah, u'shchinatu zo, b'govhei miromim, hu Eloheinu einon, hem et malkeinu efes ulato, k'katuv b'torato, v'yadata hayom v'ashevota el levavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim imah, v'al haaretz, mitachat einod. Page 591. V'nemar, v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You can be seated for a moment. We now call to mind the names of people who have died in recent days and those who have died at this time in years past. In recent days, we remember Marcus Mayers, Jeff Fuden, Arnold Perlstein, Richard Ian MacArthur. And from years past, today, recognizing the yahrzeit of Saul Bonham, Erica Broad, Annie Chait, Joseph Chait, Lee Cohen, Mildred Crown, Norman Dinosakwo, Yaffa Claire Drasnin, Kurt Dreyfus, Isidore Eisenberg, Goldie Friedman, Bess Friedland, Edith Ginsburg, Max Goldstein, Frida Kruger Goldstucker, PFC Alan Good, Sonia Hirsch, Mary Jane Jones, Jeanette E. Kahn, Meyer M. Kurlansky, Herman Mayer, Nessa Mayer, Sarah Mogul, Beatrice Moskowitz, Anise Narinsky, Matty Reddle, Ella Salit, Carl Stanislav Ksar, Bessie Hirsch Stein, Shelley Stein, Meredith Taylor, and Jacob Wagner. We rise as we remember them and recite the Kaddish together, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Bialma divrach urute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayed chol Beit Yisrael. Bagala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehi shema barabba min shemaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechamata. Da'amiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlam rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. You can be seated. Let's conclude with Oseh shalom at the bottom of the page. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Shabbat shalom. It's okay. Sure. Sure. I just got a text. Hold on, 7:41. Okay.